right. Good evening. Good morning, wherever you are. Everyone has been asking. We've seen it on Facebook a lot. Everybody asks about Big Mike. They say, "Oh, we see Doug and we see what he's doing, and we see this and we see that." So last week, when I saw that comment in the comment section, I sent him a message and I said, "Big Mike, your fans want to see you."
Mm-hmm.
And so tonight we have Big Mike on the show. We're going to talk to him about what's going on, what he's up to, what's next, and all how life is in the Philippines. Good morning, Mike. How are you?
Doing good, man. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. And we're already getting a bunch of stuff in the comments. This one says, "What's up, Mike? Andre with White Hackles Game Farm in North Carolina." And we got
North California.
North Carolina. Oh, yeah, North California.
It's been a long day, but it's North California.
It has been a long day.
It has.
So, Mike, well, yeah. What have you been up to? What's going on?
Well, 4:30 a.m. up and taking kids to school by 6, But, yeah, it's me and Doug has been putting a few things together. We'll have a show coming out here pretty soon, just a regular podcast about two guys living overseas. But you know me, man. I'm a family man. I get up to the farm once a week now. Just kind of taking kids to school seems to take up a lot of my time, really, believe it or not,
I can see that. That your arms look like they're about to pop out of that shirt. You've been taking Rapido and hitting the gym lately?
Yeah. Well, actually I cut back. I took about a month. Just when my mom was here, I took a little bit of time off from my coach. But in that time, I was eating a lot. My mom was here. Usually that's my problem. I'm not, I would say I'm a lazy eater. I just, even if food's there, I don't eat a whole lot at one time. But when my mom was here, I packed on a little bit of weight in all the right places. When I got back to the gym, my coach said, "Man, what you been doing?" I was like, "Nothing." But yeah, so just hitting the gym a little bit, not too much lately.
So how's everything going with your birds? Tell us about your birds, what kind you have, all that good stuff. We want to know.
Well, I tell you, man, this year was tough. I had, let me see how many, I had like 60 stags that were about 3 months old, and we had a rainstorm come through, and mind you, everything's vaccinated, everything's good. My workers messaged me 2 days after this rainstorm, and they said, "Sir, the chicks are sick." And I said, I knew something when they said the chicks are sick. Normally they wouldn't mess with me something like that. They'll just give premoxil powder and whatnot. And they said 2 turkey already died, and I was like, damn. So I went up there and I said, this is different. Just cull them, just kill them, because I could tell it was something different. So this is a tough environment, man. Being on the side of a mountain, sometimes it's a bit frustrating, because things just happen, and I probably didn't have to do it the way I did it. I just was like, you know what, let's wait a month or two and try something again. And so what I did is I kind of reevaluated things. I told my guy, I said, look, don't do big batches, because I'm hen setting and stuff. So now I have a cripple Tony roundhead and a lacy roundhead sitting on some eggs, and I'll just get like 20 or 30 chicks and do it like that every month, just 20 or 30. Because here, when things happen, Jeff, you've been to Jen's place. His chickens don't touch the ground. You know what I mean? They don't touch dirt. Until
they're not on dirt until they're at least 12 or 14 weeks old. I mean, they're
even on dirt, it's not dirt.
Yeah,
they're in the cement floored areas that they put stuff in. Right. You know what I mean? So
like some of them, he showed me the pictures of it, and it's like sand inside in a concrete room.
That's right. It's cement floors, Yeah. So when I say they don't touch the ground, I mean they don't touch the ground that any rainwater can get to or anything like that. So So here, if you're not, and I had things like that at one time, like at the old farm, we had a setup like that. So then when I rented, so it was easier like that. But so here, when things go bad, it can go bad on you real quick, like
Oh, yeah.
overnight, you
Yeah.
know. So I I just don't. And to be honest, man, having 3 kids now at 53 years old, 3 young kids, I think I'm at a different place to where I just don't want to be dealing with 1,000 chickens again. You know, even though I'm not the one that has to go out there and physically feed them like I used to, it just takes a lot of effort to do things like that with having 3 kids. What's that comment?
Finally put somebody on the show that likes to show his muscles. What's up, my brother from another mother?
Yeah, it's, you know, well, I'll tell you the truth though, man. Here sizes are different, you know. So you buy a 3X here, it's local size, you know, and I
Yeah.
haven't been back to the States in 7 years. So I need to get back there and get some really real real size 2X, you know, instead of, 3X local size, you know, it's different. And I think that's what it is.
I've been doing a lot of looking and checking out the climate there in the Philippines, and I think I found the place that has more humidity than we do in Alabama.
Yeah.
Well, Kerry, it's different. I lived in Pensacola for 5 years,
Mm-hmm.
and I lived in Millington, Tennessee for a while in the military. So even in
You got a taste
Iowa,
of it.
yeah, in Iowa, the humidity in the summertime, plus it's 100 and some degrees up there, but it's still different here because of the fact we're closer to the sun. We're
Mm-hmm.
near the equator. The humidity here does something. It's not. It won't be 100% humidity like Louisiana, but the humidity here affects the roosters different, because me and Douglas went through this one time when we put them up, and then it rained at night, and the roosters all got moisture just from the air. It's just a thickness to it. It's different. It's a soupy humidity.
I think that's probably
There's
one of the
another
reasons
question.
why y'all have to use so many vaccinations and so many antibiotics, is because it's like a breeding ground for everything over there.
Here's what I'll tell you. It's been a long time since I've been sick, man. Like, I tell people this all the time. I see people in the gym spraying alcohol on the benches and stuff like that. I don't do any of that. When I first got here, I had problems. I would be
Mm-hmm.
sick all the time. I had these skin things going on. You can build up these immunities to it. I have
Right.
roosters from Ace that he sent me, that crippled Tony Roundhead never gets sick. I have a Gilliam Roundhead from him that they had to amputate one of the feet, and they were going to cull it. And I said, "Give it to me. I know that thing will still," and he does. He still breeds. Never gets sick. So
What
if you use these vaccines from the States and then they come here, I noticed, man, that the roosters don't get sick. And when I say don't get sick, they don't get sick. The vaccines here, when I vaccinate them when they're young, I believe that it's already in them. You know what I mean? Like, you would have to get everything from the States and bring it here and start like that, because I tell you, man, the way you guys do stuff in the States, it's good. It's effective. I told Ace that before, because he had a problem when he sent chickens here. They were all dying, and I told him what to do to vaccinate them there. I said, because I got a yellow-legged hatch from a guy in California. I said, that joker never gets sick, and Ace did it. Now his stuff is all really, really healthy. So you can combat that stuff with good vaccination program. That's a fact. And
the
I think here's what I'll tell you too. And this is what's frustrating, because this is what I think happened last time. Okay, we had power outages here. This is where I think my chickens got sick. Those young ones. We have power outages here, and they don't throw away stuff like we do in the States. If you go to a veterinarian in the States and his power was off, they'll shit can it and file a claim on it. You know what I mean? They'll chalk it up to
Yep.
insurance.
All the medicine,
Here,
they'll get rid of it.
that's right. It doesn't get down like that here. And I knew something. When my guys told me what was up, I just was like, uh, you know what, man, I bet the power went out. I just said, kill him. You know, they were like, no, we can sit. And I was like, I get frustrated sometimes. You know,
Yeah.
it's like you getting your tools stolen. You know,
Yeah.
Carrie.
Oh man.
I said 1 step forward, 2 steps back.
Yeah.
That's how I feel sometimes here. You know, Mark Kelly over there will tell you his power outage. You know, that's why I stopped using the incubator. I had 300 eggs the last time I used the incubator, and the power went out. You know, for 2 days. So I started hen setting, but then so there's just, you know, this is a tough environment, man. I don't care how rich, because you can have all the money in the world. You can fix every problem here with money. To be honest, you order your vaccines. That when they arrive, you're the one who gets them and you handle them. You know if they're effective or not. Like Jinjin can do that. You can buy straight from a company and come straight to you, and they're still on the dry ice or whatever, so they're still good. But if you're going through a middleman here, and the middleman is just a little aggravate here down the road, and their power went out for, you know, overnight, 24 hours, they just leave it in there. So it's tough, man. It gets frustrating. And when you talk about looking at the humidity and factoring in all this other things here, this environment, and I tell you, just dealing with humans here, because I was a corpsman, these guys have got leg wounds and stuff. And I went and drained these abscesses on this guy before, a British guy. And he's like, man, I never had anything like this. And I was like, yeah, because you're in a tropical environment here. Even in Louisiana, in Florida, my fighting dogs I used to have, the bulldogs, used to get worms every year over there, really bad. In the north, we never got stuff like that. You didn't have to deworm every month, you know. But then you come here, it's just times 100 on everything.
That's crazy. Yeah, that's just I don't know. I can't get it.
You know, Mike's doing his best to describe it, but until you go there and you feel it, it's like I was happy to be there in May and June, but
Yeah,
the weather was, for me as an old fat white guy, was horrible. I mean, it sucked. So
yeah. If
See,
you put things
that's the thing that I'm scared of, because like I don't like to get like miserably hot and sweaty, and I like to keep my house in the mid 60s to go to bed, and like
you can't,
that ain't happening over there.
You can't even get your house to the mid 60s over there, right? I mean,
That's what I'm saying.
you turn the air conditioner on for a couple hours before you go to bed and hope you cool it
I
off
left
enough
mine
you can
on when I
sleep.
went to the school this morning to take my kids to school. I told my wife, leave the AC on so it stays cool in here. When I come home, it's ready. You know, that you're right.
Yeah.
But I put things into perspective here. You know, like I didn't retire and come here to fight chickens. I retired to come here and just fly under the radar, you know, and just live.
I mean, what's
My
your monthly
brother-in-law,
expenses like there, Mike? If you didn't have, okay, let me back up. If you came there just to live, like you just described, right,
yeah,
without chickens and goats and everything
yeah,
else,
yeah.
you know, I mean, you know, what is a decent monthly income, American dollars, to to live over there?
Well, I got a buddy that does it on 1,000, you know, $1,000 a month, and he he's kind of cowboyish, you know, like he'll live in a house with no AC, you know, just an electric fan.
Yeah.
Me, I couldn't do. I always tell people I didn't retire to live like a peasant. You know, I live good, man. But no, I think $2,000 a month, if no kids. You know, if you
Okay.
come here, don't have any kids, or you know, or if you meet a girl that has one kid, you can do it. You know, because you can still get a car. Like if you're getting $2,000 a month, you can finance a car here. You know, your car payment probably about $200 a month. Your house, you can rent a good. Like my house here, the neighbors are that we own. We're buying this one, but the neighbors that rent their house, I think they're paying close to 500 a month. But this is in a good location, you know, in the middle of the city. But you can still get, like Douglas just rented a house somewhere for 8,000 pesos, which is let's say $150 a month. for a couple bedroom house. That's not bad. Food has gone up,
Yeah, I
and
hear that.
that's what's rough about chickens. You used to be able to get a bag of chicken feed for 1,000 pesos, $20. Now it's $30. Uh, Labor's gone up.
So, what about if you meet a girl with 5 kids? How much money you need then?
Well, I tell you, with three, well, you know what, Kerry? There's a way to look at that because local kids eat different and they might be used to eating a certain way, eating cheaper than what my kids eat. You know what I mean? Because we eat a little bit different. So, 3 kids, I would say here. Okay, here's what I tell you. Every morning we cook breakfast. The kids eat,
Right.
because here they eat different. Here in the States, we might eat once a day or something like that. But here it's 3 to 5 times a day. Culturally, that's how they eat. So we eat breakfast. Then at lunch, we go and we buy from a catering place up the road here. They cater, and they
Right.
have, like what you said, 14 different types of food out there, and every day it's different. Like some days it's goat, soups and stuff. So each person will say what they want, and then we get it, and that usually costs us about 700 pesos, so about $16. Okay, like that,
For all of
and
y'all.
then yeah, for everybody for 6 because my sister-in-law lives with us too. So then we from there I go straight to the market. My wife will go and I'll usually give her 1,000 pesos, and she'll buy the meat. It's because we buy daily what we're gonna cook. So she'll go and she'll buy. So 1,000 pesos is just under $20. So she'll buy, and that's our meal for the night, and she'll cook that. Um, so you figure you're looking at $40 a day for food, and that's on 6 people though. So if one cat comes here, you can. When I say you can live good here, you can. One guy
Man,
comes here.
that would be absolutely amazing for me because there's 10 people in my house and
Yeah,
I spend about $700-800 a month just at Sam's buying groceries.
yeah, yeah.
So I need to talk everybody into moving over there.
Well, the problem you run into with bringing kids here, the problem you run into with that is your visa. You would have to extend every visa every 2 months. So you're looking at $40 per person every 2 months. And that's where it gets you if you come here like that. You know what I
Mm,
mean? So
yeah.
that's the problem you run into with people, because a lot of people have asked me that if they want to come here and they have like a wife and 2 kids. I tell them, I said, well, you're gonna have to be on a tourist visa. So you're gonna have to renew those visas every 2 months. Now the kids, there is something. If your kids come here and go to school, you could put in for a student visa on each
Yeah.
kid. Then they allow one parent to ride on that student visa, and that's cheaper. So you could do it like that. So there's ways around everything, but it still would cost you a little bit.
Makes sense. Michael says that he saw a thing where some dirt in the West has more copper and stuff in the ground. So the crops that are grown different than the crops there and the ones in the States, just like tap water.
Yep, I tell you, man, I just experienced something like this. Me, Carrie, I see like you dip your hands into different business opportunities, and me, I'll do that too. I mean, I always say that's a little bit of that gambler in me.
Mm-hmm.
I'll put a little bit into something and try it, and if it works, I'll go with it. But if it doesn't work, I pull the plug. Well, I did this thing where I'll finance a field of corn. Okay, the problem is with this field, it's not good for corn. And as soon as I went there and saw it, the stalks were skinny, because my relatives are from Iowa, so I knew right away. I was like, oh. But me, I don't know shit about dirt. But when I
Right.
looked at the dirt and saw what was wrong, I was like, I know what it is. This has too much clay in it. So it didn't cost me a whole lot, $300, whatever, because they were able to sell it. It just wasn't sold at a good price. But now I learned from that, and it's just funny that person said that about the dirt. From one side of the road to the other side of the road on this mountain, the dirt over here is black and dark, and the dirt over here is clay. So yeah, there's different
It's a
different
huge
types
difference.
of dirt here, and it does make a difference. Yeah, and it obviously it makes a difference.
Michael Dwayne says, "Can you get food stamps in the Philippines?"
No.
I don't think. Yeah, I
No.
don't.
No,
No,
that's what I tell people.
I don't.
Don't
I've never
care if
been
you're
there, and I
poor.
could tell you that one.
Yeah, they have programs for locals. Okay, they do, but this is not a place to be poor because it's a very here it's truly survival of the fittest, and that's exactly how it is. Um, it's these people are very generous. Like there was a foreigner here recently that said he was homeless, the wife that took all his money or something, and people were giving this guy donations and food, but this ain't the place for that. In the US you have food banks and stuff where you can go. Here, we've got some trees that grow these leaves, and I always say the only thing free here is the malunggay, that they cut up and put it in the soup.
Yeah,
But
moringa, good stuff.
yeah.
See, Anthony says, "I need some great tacos. Love Mexican Gamefowl and their lifestyle."
Yeah, I tell you, man. Every place gonna have what. Like for me, I went all over to different countries before I decided to pick the Philippines. Like I
Right.
said, it had nothing to do with Gamefowl. My brother-in-law was just fighting chickens every Sunday, and I drive my motorcycle. First, I would jog over there every Sunday and watch him fight these chickens, and then I said, "Hey, let me try this out." But you have to look at the whole picture. If a guy just comes here to fight roosters, he's still got to deal with other things in this country. Like myself, I went to Korea, and Korea is a tough environment. When I say tough environment, it's cold. Uh, Carrie, I tell you, everywhere I go is because of women. To be honest, like in Japan, I had beautiful girlfriends, but I couldn't live there because their culture is different. I lived there 10 years on and off, different times. I can speak it pretty decent, but if you're broke down on the side of the road, nobody's going to stop to help you. You're totally on your own.
It's
That,
like America.
yeah. Well, but in America, people will still give you, let's say
Some
10%
will.
bad, 90% are still decent. I don't know. I haven't been back there in years, but I'm going to tell you something about the Philippines. The Philippines, I can walk out right now and ask people for help, and they will help me on the spot. That's the one thing that I can say is different about here in Singapore. They're just robots. Everybody just walks to work. Japan, Korea, you try to get on the train, people knock you down getting on the train. I asked the girl there, I said, "Man, why is everybody so rude bumping into me?" She said, "What do you mean?" And I was like, everybody, she said, "That's just how we get on the train." Like, it was no big deal to her. And I was like, it's crazy.
That
But
is
here,
crazy.
but here in Cebu is different from Manila. When you go to Manila, it's kind of tough there. But here in Cebu, everybody speaks English. Even the homeless people on the side of the road, they all speak English, and it's an English you can understand. And that's why I tell these guys who fight chickens, if they want to come here, Cebu's the place to do it. But the thing is, there's a learning curve. You know, like Mark Kelly's been in Negros a long time, and now Mark has found his groove and things are going good. But I tell you, it wasn't easy in the beginning. You know, and so if you can come here young enough to figure out a few things, and I think, and I always say this about Douglas, it took Douglas about 4 years, because from the time I met him until the time I went there and saw him in Batangas, and I said, "Oh yeah, I came back with my brother." I said, "Hey, he already figured it out, because all his chickens looked good. They were all uniform. Everything was perfect." And
Hmm.
it took him about 4 years to tweak things a certain way to get it right. And I think guys who are good with roosters can come here and do that. Now in Mexico, it's dry. I would think that in Mexico it'd be easy to raise stuff. However, I don't know about that dry climate, what it does for them too. I'm sure they have their things also. But if I was an American and I only wanted to fight chickens, I know they have the problem with cartels down there now, so I don't know how, as far as safety goes. But for me, I would think that would be a easier move, than having to come to here, because here, the tropical environment, man, it's tough. This is a tough environment, and I think a lot of guys get frustrated with that.
So from what I have seen, in Mexico, there's a lot of times that the cartels they will help you. They'll also come buy 100 roosters and pay for 20 of them, and you will like it or you will deal with it.
Yeah.
So there's kind of both sides of that.
Yeah.
Douglas says no one drinks the water in the Philippines. I don't think anybody drinks tap water anywhere, do they?
Oh, you know what?
It's not even safe here in America anymore.
I did in Bicol. So 2007, when I went to Bicol, it wasn't like now where you buy water. You know what I mean? Like here, there's a water station on every block now, you know? And 2007, and even in 97, when I came here in 97, well, in 97, I still drank beer. So I drank a lot of San Mig in 97, the first time I came here with my first wife. But in 2007, I had a place in Bicol, and we dug a deep well. Man, I had a pressurized pump. It pumped water up into a tank that came in my house, and I drank that water. And I never had a problem with it, you know. But Cebu, no, we've had mineral water since the day I got here, you know, 'cause you can buy it everywhere. But my wife tells me that up until I came here in 2010, but I tell you what, Carrie, in 2010, I saw her brother fill a pan of water and make soup out of it, and I ate it. But they haven't done. I haven't seen them use that water in years now. I've been here 14 years now. I haven't seen them anymore use tap water because my wife's family has a deep well also. But yeah, he's right. People don't drink the water here anymore. I would.
I think Dougie Childers has a question that he might need you to answer offline for him. I don't know. He wants to know if you know anybody that would be interested in some good chickens that would pay to have them shipped over there and raise them and put them to work.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. But here's what I tell him, man. Well, okay. I would have to see them fight. You know what I mean? Because what I say is this: in Manila, when you set a rooster down, they have it like in America. Your roosters can do. They like them to run and attack and fight like that too, you know. But here in Cebu, if you have a rooster that runs across and attacks, their rooster's going to sidestep and hit him. Because me, Jeff, you were there at Jim's arena that time, and I was picking winners nonstop because I would look at him in the warm up. People they were asking me, "How do you do it?" And Florente has schooled me so well on this. And that's why when I'm hack fighting, I can see when a guy shows his rooster to another guy and sets him down. I can see how it walks or how it moves. I just know things. I can see. So when I see these guys spar, I'm gonna tell you, man. My buddy sent me a video one time. Mike, look at this rooster I'm gonna buy. And I said, which one? The one on the right or the one on the left? He said, the one on the right. And I said, I mean, I don't have a slow motion on this or nothing, but I just can look at the legs, you know, and I saw that rooster's legs were just like this and the wings were pop, 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 pop. I said, is that guy your friend? Because if that guy's selling roosters, he knows that rooster doesn't kick. And then I thought about it and I said, well, if that guy's been breeding a long time and he doesn't know that rooster doesn't kick, then he has bad eyes too. You know what I mean? So I would have to, I'm not saying, but what I mean is there's a different style here in Cebu. So if you're going to fight in Bacolod, you need roosters that fight one way. If you're going to fight in Manila, you need roosters to fight another way. And people say that they can win anywhere, but I tell you what, I haven't seen it yet. Haven't seen it. You know, World Slasher Cup, they run at each other and they kick pop, 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 until one dies. And to me, that's like a suicide mission. You know, here in Cebu. But the problem here in Cebu now, nobody wants to go fight Slasher Cup because of the shipping. It's such a pain in the ass. They just had 30 roosters die in the shipping in Cebu Pacific recently. That was just on the news, big deal. So it depends on where you want to fight. If you want to fight here in Cebu, we have the New Star Casino now that's doing big, you know, 20 million peso derbies. You know, they were betting, imagine 14 million on one fight. They're betting. It's crazy. So, but if you're going to fight in Cebu, you have to have roosters that fight like Mayweather. You know, they don't get close. They stay back, and they're smart. In Manila, you need tough, durable roosters that kick hard because they're going to get close. You know, it's not much style to it whatsoever. But there are guys that, in fact, a buddy of mine, Cooper, just told me that some big guy wants to send him roosters over there to Bohol and let Cooper fight him for him or whatever, you know. This guy it's an American guy that wants to do this, send it over there. And I told him, I said, well, that guy won't be able to make money because the derbies don't pay enough over in Bohol. And he said, well, the guy just wants to make money off of betting. And I said, that never goes well. I've heard that before. You know, one year you might win every fight, and the next year you don't win any, you know, here because it's just that tough.
It's competitive.
Well, yeah, and here they changed the style. You know, Kerry, I tell you, man, if I see a rooster in the sparring that gets hit, I throw it out. You know what I mean? And there's a way when they fight. Yeah, like the biting. If they bite when they kick, whereas a lot of Americans like that when the rooster grabs a hold and kicks, we throw those out. So when guys want to send roosters here, what I would do, to me, that's the way to do it. Believe it or not, like how Copus does it. You know, send them over here, let them molt, and then fight them. It's expensive to do it like that, but if you want money that could do it, then that's the way to do it. Because those roosters don't get sick. Those roosters they send over here, they don't get sick, man. They're healthy.
Yeah, but there's a couple different ones doing it.
Yeah, but it's tough to do it like that, you know. And then if you want to send them over here to breed, once you breed them here, you introduce the disease to them, because the vaccines are never going to be as good as the vaccines you guys. They're never going to have that's the word I'm looking for, quality control. They never have the quality control that you have back there in the United States. There's just no quality control here, none whatsoever. None. I mean,
so a while ago when you said something about going to Mexico, Ray says no. I'm Mexican and I was going to move to Mexico, and I said no because the cartel will text you. They'll come to your place. They'll take your roosters, and you don't have nothing to say about it. That's very similar to what happened to a buddy of mine down there.
Yeah, and I'll pussyfoot around the truth, you know, even here, you know, about stuff. I like right now, and that's what I was elaborating or trying to say about down there. You know, each place has its own things you got to work around, you know, because there's guys who swear by it. There's guys who go down to Mexico and they do it, man. I mean, they post stuff and I see it, and they have places down there, but I don't know.
You just got to be careful.
Yeah, whereas here we don't have those problems, but we have the disease problem. And here they'll hustle you too. I mean, you still got to watch out.
Ray says that he's been watching Mike and his style of chickens. They're very aggressive and burners, and they get there first. They take care of it, and they don't stop. And if I remember right, he a lot of his are in Mississippi, right? Like that's where they come from.
Who's that?
A lot of Mike Kelly's birds come from Mississippi.
Oh, Mark. Well, yeah, Marks are aggressive, but I tell you, man, if you watch, you'll see an evolution of Mark chickens. Like, you know, through trial and error, they're smart now. His are smart, whereas I think Americans didn't used to have, especially if you fight gaff, you don't need a smart rooster. You need a rooster that hits and hits hard. You know, they don't necessarily have to be smart. They get in close. So I think that was the problem. These guys were bringing these birds that are dead game gaff birds, but they would get too close and they get killed too easy. And now through trial and error, they're getting the birds that will hang out a little bit in the back, and when the opponent makes a move, they'll hit it. You know, yeah, we have a saying here: the one that attacks first gets killed first. You know, so it's there's a thing to that. But no, I thought Marks were from Oklahoma. Well, but he got from other people. Yeah, I know he was from Oklahoma. I think.
I know that they have there's the coal miner mugs. They're real popular in this area from Richard
Yeah,
Kelly.
I have some. Uh,
Yeah, they're good birds.
that friend of mine here that died, the European guy. This guy was a unique person, man. I mean, he went around and got like, he had a dude that was back in the States, a Filipino guy that was very good with roosters, and he would send this guy money. That guy would send him stuff, and the Filipino guy had a good eye because he knew the style of fighting here in Cebu, and the stuff he sent him was, stuff that like I had an American guy tell me one time, this chicken here is very lazy, but that chicken hit every time, man. I'm telling you now, and they thought the other one was good because he was rushing in and kicking, and I said, there's a difference between lazy. What we consider lazy is when they like flick their legs out and they're not focused. If
Yeah.
a chicken's looking the whole time and he's pow, pow, only hitting one or two times, but accurate hits, that's not lazy. So I think that sometimes people get that mixed up a little bit, But I've lazy chickens. We cook them, just flicking their legs out like this, two legs at a time, like they're hopping or something, or jumping like that. That's just giving your opponent a target. They hit with their chest like that. But those guys, but the coal miner mugs I have, they're good.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're good. But to me, they're late maturing. Like you can't fight them in stag fights. I fought them in
No.
stag fights. Like I took some and fought them at hack fights as stags just to see how, like my first batches from these, and they weren't good. I mean, they fight to the death, but they weren't accurate. They were kind of clumsy. But man, when they were 2 years old, they win. They win decisively.
I was
Uh,
gonna say for mine, it's like anything past that 18-month mark.
yeah,
Like once they get past year and a half or so, those birds are like laser focused, super fast, short bodied. Just they'll do their job really well.
yep, yeah. And I think that, but here we fight them. Okay, so here it depends on what you want to fight, because I'm not. This is why it's tough to win here. This is why it's tough. Everything we fight, everything stags 7, 8, 9 months. Okay, and I did very well with 8-month-old chickens. When my first year, the December batch, uh, something happened with them, so I used my January batch when I came time for derbies, and so that means they were only 8 months, and I did really well. I won the 3 stag warm up, and then I had 6 points in the 7 stag, and that was my first year. And those were only 8-month-old stags. So by the time people fight the stag derby season, they might have a couple of 3-time winners. You know what I mean? And then they put those on ice and they let them sit until they're 2 years now. They let them molt. Then they let them go 2 years. So by the time they come to fight them as cocks, they're 2 or 3-time winners. So here, if people don't like chickens that don't mature quick, like even me, that's why I didn't say too much about the coal miners, but I was like, I know they're late maturing. So here, people they don't want that. People want to, Carrie. When I have a short chicken, a short stag that's only 5 or 6 months, but he's short. If
Mm-hmm.
that joker will fight, I'll give it to my workers and I'll tell them, go fight this on Sunday. It's only 5 months, but they'll tie a knife on it at 5 months old, and we'll fight it. And that's the difference here. Instead of just culling it, I don't get anything. I can go fight it, maybe win $20. And it's easy to get a match with a young chicken.
I mean,
But when you
$20
have
is
to,
$20.
yeah, but when you have to sit on a chicken for 2 years, and I know Americans, you guys take pride in that. Like you just take them, raise them, put them on a cord, feed them, and let them mature till 2 years. Whereas here, it'll already be a 2 or 3-time winner by the time he's 2 years old. So when you come here, it's tough. That's what you're up against. We don't like late maturing. I like them. If I see them kicking in the ranging area when they're 4 or 5 months old, I'll get out. I'll get that one out. and I'll put it on a cord, and I'll remember that's the early maturing one. And then next year, like if he does well, next year I'll breed that one. His offspring will early mature also. That's what we like, 4 or 5 months. Put them on a cord. They already fight. Then you can cut the comb, start to work. Once the comb, after 2 or 3 weeks, you've already cut their comb. Then after 2 or 3 weeks, you can let them spar a little bit, because by the time they're 8, 9 months, we're going to the derby with them. And you have them in a keep when they're 8 months, 3 weeks. So they're very, very young. But that's a stag season here, 9 months.
Okay. What other kind of hurdles do you have when it comes to, going from, let's say, hatching out to when there's stags like that or whatever? What, aside from, we talked about vaccinations and the dirt and things like that, and what other issues do you have there? Like with growing out healthy birds?
Well, space. Yeah,
Space.
It's that's always going to be the number one issue, especially if you're trying to keep them off the ground.
Yeah.
You can't put but a few of them together, because they'll start. And stressed birds fight. When people post videos of their chicks fighting, well, that's because they're under stress. Otherwise, they would never do that. If they're plucking their tail feathers and they're plucking their eyes, then there's too many in there, and you have to separate half. That's my biggest problem. That would be like when I was at that Warhawk farm, renting that farm. I never had any problem, because there was 50, 60 fly pens, and you could just divide them by half every week. You just split them in half, so it was no problem. But if you have deep pockets, there's no problems on stuff. But if you don't have deep pockets, you got to do things within a budget. Then you're looking at 30 or 40 chicks. That's about all you want, because other than that, you're gonna have them fight. To me, that's the biggest one, space.
I mean, I can see that, because
issue.
that's probably my biggest issue here is space. I need to have a couple hundred on the ground, but I only have room for a lot less.
Yeah, but I tell you, man, it depends on how many you fight a year. Like ideally, if I had, I'd fight every day. I would have fight every day if I had the space for that, but I don't. So if you're only going to fight 2 or 3 chickens a month, you don't really need a whole lot here. You could just hatch out, a few. You guys do you have winter there where you're at? Does it get cold?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well,
See,
I mean, what we call cold is, a lot of people, it's in the 20s.
yes, that's cold.
Yeah. Now, for Jeff, 20s is just a winter day.
Yeah, that's right. Now here, the difference here is we have a rainy season, and the rain is what kills them here. That's what does it here. The hot days aren't so bad. It's the rain. When the rain comes, and here's something funny. I never knew this until recently. And when I say recent, I'm talking about within the last 2 months. My wife showed me this video that she got off of Facebook, that this scientist here, a Filipino guy, a microbiologist, went out and took a thing and held it up like this and got direct rainwater, not from off the roof or anything like that. Just caught the rain, went in there and put it under the microscope and looked at it. And I'm telling you, man, there's so many microorganisms in that water. And I've always said that when I first got here, when I ride my motorcycle in the rain, I would get sick. In the United States, when I used to ride the motorcycle in the rain, I didn't get sick. I didn't have a problem. But here I would get really sick, even bad stomach, runny nose, whatever. And I always just assumed that that's what it was. These clouds must be having bacteria in it. Well, that proved my point, because it's just like when my chickens got sick after that rain. Even if they're not touching the ground, I'm talking they're in brooder pens up off the ground. But when it rained, wiped them out.
Yeah,
It was
they
just
get cold real
aerosolized.
quick.
Something that was, yeah, it's just something in the air that got them in there, you know. And it's because there's little particles, little bacteria in that rain. So the rain here just it'll devastate your stuff. If you're, but
So
you
let
know,
me.
Gen, he's got those huge covered areas. I mean, no rain gets in there at all, you know, and
Yeah,
he can drop stuff down the tarpaulins down on the side. No rain gets in. I mean, you know, but God, you got to spend a fortune to get like that.
yeah. What kind of predators do you deal with at your farm?
Well, you know, I've been fortunate. I don't have a problem with thieves. You know, so that to me, that's the good news. I don't have thieves. In fact, well, let's say I've had chickens 12 years here, and I've only lost 2 roosters because of a thief. You know, 2. Uh, and the 2 roosters they got, like sometimes when I have culls that I'm gonna fight it, just a hack fight, like they have a bad eye or something, I put them out
Mhm.
on the edge, and that's what it was. So the chickens they got weren't necessarily good anyway. So, but we got big snakes here, man. Just the other day when I was driving the kids to school, or me and my wife were going to pick them up from school, a couple of guys had a python out there with the mouth taped, and this sucker was mean. You could tell because the way it was flicking around. But I mean, 17-inch biceps, and that thing was bigger than my bicep. It was a big python, biggest one and I killed one at the old farm that was gigantic, but this was a
Mhm.
monster. It looked like they got it out of the drainage ditch, you know. So then we've got those lizards, the monitor lizards. They eat eggs. So if you have hens on the ground just running around, they can. My workers caught one time. It was 6 kilos. So what's 6 kilos? 12 pounds. It
Yeah.
was 12 pounds of meat, you know, with the tail and the body and the guts out. 6 kilo monitor lizard. But when they caught it in the net, it started to vomit up eggs. It spit out 14 whole eggs out of its gut, man. It ate out of my hen area, you know. I said, damn, there's where all my eggs been going, man. 14 eggs came out of that sucker, you know. So and then we have these wildcats. It looks like my guys caught one recently. It looked like a small Bengal tiger looking thing, you know, or had spots on it, but they'll eat your chickens. So that's but really the number one predator here you got to watch out for is neighbors' dogs. That's the one that's the complaint. Like when you see whole farms wiped out, where people show their videos of dead chickens laying around in pieces, it's always the neighbors' dogs that got in there and got. That's the number one
So, like
killer.
here, a lot of people have a Great Pyrenees or some other kind of dog to help, keep stuff away.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know. Would that work there, or do you
Yeah.
need
Well,
somebody sitting out there with an infrared scope popping out monitors and cobras?
yeah. Well, yeah. Here, rats, man. I'm not a fan of cats, you know. And I went to my farm one time, and there was this little kitten. And when I say little, it was small. And I looked at my worker. I said, "Man, what the hell is that?" Just made a joke. And Janelle, my farm manager, went outside and brought in these 2 big monster rats. And he said, "She killed those last night." I said, "What? That little cat killed those?" He said, "Yeah. This cat is still there at my farm now, and I'm telling you, man, she sleeps all day, hunts all night, because we get these huge rats that come out of this bamboo. They live there, and she wrecks them. But the dogs here don't mess with rats, man. It's the craziest thing in the world, man. They'll chase another dog, but they don't mess with rats. But so here, having a good farm cat seems to be what helps here a lot, you know. But
And say cats will go after snakes too.
yeah, I
I
think
don't
she
know that
killed.
they'll go after one the size of one of your arms.
Yeah, and my guys got one recently that was pretty damn big, and they said that she was the one that got it wrapped up in the net. And once it got up in the net, my worker was able to get over there and get it. But yeah, dogs here, everybody just has these local dogs. I've never heard of anybody here having working dogs
Gotcha.
because I'll tell you why though, Kerry. This is a tough environment for dogs. When I came here, I brought 2 pit bulls and a French bulldog. And man, I tell you what, man, big mistake. This environment does something to their skin. You have to have them in the air conditioned 24/7. Every time I see people with bulldogs here, like those bullies or what we used to call pit bulls, they're not really pit bulls anymore. They're mixed up, but they always have these skin things going on them here. But I've never seen anybody with like a with a malinois or anything like that, or anything. It's a farm. I've never been to a farm and seen a working dog here.
Now, I agree with Anthony. No thanks.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, I mean,
the snakes and the monitors, that did it for me. That combined with no air conditioning, like I don't know. This big boy needs his air conditioning.
Well, but you know what? But I tell you what, Kerry, a guy like you being from Alabama, like me, when my sister-in-law, when I was on the big farm, she came and said, Mike, there's a huge snake over there. And I said, okay. So I picked up a piece of bamboo, like let's say a 3-foot. I use them for roost poles. They're already cut. I buy them for like 5 pesos each. They're already cut 3 foot or 4 foot, depending on how long I want them. So I went over and picked one up, and I go around the corner, and I was like, I don't see it. I think it must be gone. And she stuck out her arm, and she pointed at this thing. And I looked, I said, oh my God, it looked like a log. You know what I mean? It was sitting there like a log. But I just took this thing and whack and whacked it. So guys like us that have killed a snake or two in Florida, these snakes, they're not venomous. Now they have these cobras here. They're here in Cebu. These king cobras now are being found a lot here in Cebu because they just swim from other islands. But I haven't encountered that. But pythons and stuff like that, they're big, but they're easy. They're slow. That's what I tell you. They're big and slow. Now the monitor lizards, they run from you. They'll never aggress you. They'll always. So you have to catch them. We put chicken intestine on a fishing hook, and then you hook the fishing hook to some steel cable, like the tie wire you use when you in construction, whatever. We put it through the hook, and you hang it on the tree with the intestines there, and then them lizards will come up there and they'll swallow that hook, and then you got them, you hook them like that. So they're easy to catch, but you'll never be able to. One will never come at you, and you'll never just see one because they're always trying to get away from you.
All right. So, what's a good place to stay in the northern part of the Philippines? Because Jubilee says that it doesn't get real hot there. So, the northern part might be my place.
Yeah. I tell you, man, every place has a benefit. It's tough to communicate in those northern places because Bicol was like that. Bicol was near that big volcano.
Yeah.
And that's where the typhoons go. In fact, all those places just got beat up by that last typhoon. They're still messed up over there in Baguio and places like that. So every place has a benefit. And that was my point about, living in certain. So if you want to come to here, you got to come here and go a few places, like for me, when I was in Bicol, the communication barrier was bad because they have a heavy accent. Even when they spoke English, it was tough. Whereas here in Cebu, we have it's a sloppy, I would say the wet, sloppy climate part of the year, that you would think that you would get in a tropical environment. However, the benefit of living here, you have the city life, and I have the mountain life like my farm is, So like I always say, I'm a city boy with country boy tendencies, so I can have the best of both worlds. But it's so easy to communicate here. People always ask me, Mike, why? Like the locals say, sir, you've been here 14 years. How come you don't speak English? I said, because you all speak English. It made me lazy, In Japan, if you get a girlfriend, you got to be able to speak Japanese, So I learned Japanese. But the cold weather in Bicol still was not enough to keep me there because the typhoons. I was just so I just got worn out, man. There was always something.
Yeah.
And even now, here here in Cebu, we don't have those. In 14 years, we had one typhoon that was bad. One. That was it.
Okay. So it's a trade-off. We got like 5 more minutes. Guys, if y'all post all your questions that you have in the comment section, we'll get as many of them through as we can. Ray says, Jeff. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You can ask that.
Oh, I was going to say, Ray asked, Jeff, how different do you have to feed your birds in the humid weather like what they have in the Philippines, like just regular yard feed?
I mean, okay, so look, and I don't want to hurt Mike's feelings or anybody else, but when I was there and I looked at the feed, and know what's in most of those feeds, I could not find good feed in the Philippines. Okay, period. If you asked me if any of the chicken feeds I saw, other than the custom blend I made for Gen, right, I would tell you that the feed there is shit. Okay, but if you were going to get your own feed made like Gen, I would definitely lower the energy levels in it, so the bird's still consuming, good, wholesome nutrition. The big key is, to get the carbohydrates, reduce the amount of corn, in my opinion, reduce the corn, and shift it out for some other grains like barley, which they have there, just to get the energy level down. And that's going to be a big help.
That makes sense, because here's what I tell you, Jeff. This is where the hands-on about these roosters. If the grass is tall, they get skinny because they're pulling that cord on there really, really hard. So you got to keep your grass cut. And here it rains a lot, So if your guys aren't cutting grass, you're going to feed them more, trying to keep bodies on them because of the heat. So in fact, this is what I learned from Florente. If a rooster was skinny, he would take it and put it under a tree where it's shaded, and that rooster would get the body. If a rooster's fat, he'll take that rooster and put it in the sun, because the sun will speed up their metabolism, because they're just like reptiles. They were reptiles, before evolution. But that's why being hands-on here is a big thing. Our feed is not good, but because of that, you can make up for it with your ability to touch the roosters and feel how the bodies are.
Right. A good manager. Well, yeah, a good manager with property where you have shade and you have open, like you're describing right there, as long as it's a good manager and knows what he's feeling for when he picks a bird up, you can move him around and adjust and help compensate for. That's right. But man, unless you're spending,
we have to do that because feed, like what you're saying, that's what I mean. I'm agreeing. Everything you're saying is totally true. They're using the feed, the stuff from the mills or from the brewery here, San Miguel. Every time they're done brewing, they get that, and these companies buy it.
That's crazy.
They mix it in the feed.
Let's see. Michael says, if I get corn, wheat, oats, etc. from different places, they all will have different nutrient value. Think why no two feeds the same.
Yeah. And people don't realize that. I mean, Michael figured it out, but corn from Iowa it has this nutrient level versus corn from Pennsylvania is completely different. And corn, so where the corn's grown because of the climate and the soil structure, it's completely different. It's just not.
Jeff's feed will put the body on them.
Yeah, for sure. That's top stuff. Yeah, of course.
Now, this question right here says, what's the best breeding method? I think we're going to do that's a whole show right there. Talking about different methods of breeding. And, I think the best breeding method, that's probably going to be somewhere similar to opinions. Everybody's got their own favorite, but, stay tuned, because that is going to be a future episode where we in depth discuss a lot of different breeding methods. I've been collecting answers from people all over on that one, so we can bring them all up.
Yeah, because it also depends on what you're breeding for. You know, if you're just trying to mass produce or you're breeding for, you know, to continue a bloodline. Yeah, that's
I mean, yeah, some people are breeding for numbers because they want to sell birds. Some people are. I mean, I probably cull more than I keep just because all I want is quality.
yeah, sure.
Well,
Yeah,
look, Big Mike, I greatly appreciate your time.
no
I
problem.
really enjoyed having you on the show. A lot of the folks, I mean, if you go back and look at the comment section, tons of people are glad to see that you're still kicking, and looking forward to everything that Mike has going on. And I'm also going to use this time to throw in a tidbit. We're working on putting together a 2-hour Christmas special right before Christmas, and we're going to have a lot of folks. I think the maximum we can fit on here at once is 10. That's probably a bit optimistic, but we're going to get a bunch of us in here and do like an hour and a half, 2-hour long Q&A for everybody. So look forward to having you on that as well.
That's cool. Yeah, that sounds like a good time.
Good time.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Take care, guys. Thanks.